When desire speaks in silence. Why do you feel what you feel, even when you don't want to? Why do certain memories come back just when you think you're finally at peace? And why does desire insist on showing up at the worst possible moments? For faces you've tried to forget? For gestures that still echo in your body? For sensations you never managed to name? Maybe what you call discomfort isn't a flaw to be fixed, but a message, a sign, a whisper from your soul trying to break through the surface. Most of us were taught to see desire as a problem to be defeated, a raw impulse, a force that needs to be tamed. But what if it's not? What if what you feel is actually the secret language of your unconscious? There's a force inside you that won't be silenced, a force that runs through you, disturbs you, and insists on appearing even when you try to push it down. That force has many names: libido, instinct, passion, but maybe the truest name is vital essence. The energy that moves you, unsettles you, calls to you, is the same energy that fuels creation, drives life, and cries out for wholeness. But from an early age, you were taught to contain it, to hold back, to swallow, to smile even when something inside you was screaming. You learned that desire is physical, biological, and something to hide, suppress, or deny. And in doing so, you lost the chance to hear what that fire was truly trying to say. Desire is misunderstood. It's not just attraction. It's not just sex. It's memory stored in the body. It's symbolic emotion. It's the language your unconscious uses to show you what you haven't yet integrated. How many times have you felt a sudden pull toward someone without understanding why? How often have you been swept into intense relationships that felt magical, and at the same time, destructive? How many times have you mistaken intensity for love and passion for healing? This isn't random. It's your unconscious at work. Your soul trying to create meaning where your mind only sees confusion. And when you ignore these signs, they build up. They become noise. They become compulsion. Because anything that isn't heard eventually screams. And everything that screams will one day turn into pain. What you feel in your body, in your dreams, in those unexplained reactions, they're not weaknesses. They're messages, calls for integration, for listening, for truth. And the truth is, you didn't divide yourself by accident. You became split because you learned to reject parts of who you are. One part of you longs. Another part feels ashamed for longing. And in this silent battle, you lose yourself. You turn desire into guilt, guilt into addiction, addiction into a mask, a way to survive without ever showing your whole self. But what if you began to listen to that energy? Not as something dangerous, but as something sacred? There comes a moment when everything shifts, when you stop fighting what you feel and start asking, what is this trying to tell me? That's when desire stops being a burden and becomes a compass. The energy you've tried to suppress is more than an urge. It's a symbol, a map. It carries the echoes of your childhood, your unhealed wounds, the lovers you buried, the dreams you abandoned. It speaks to you daily, in subtle reactions, in intense desires, in turbulent relationships, in recurring fantasies and irrational fears. And when you don't listen, it gets louder. It screams as anxiety. It shows up as fatigue. It wears the mask of chronic dissatisfaction. You try to control it, but it slips away. You try to repress it, but it returns. You pretend not to feel it, but your body feels it because the body doesn't lie. It's the stage where your soul performs everything you haven't yet understood, and desire is the invisible script that insists on playing out. How often have you felt exhausted for no reason? Like you were carrying a weight you couldn't name? That exhaustion has a name: symbolic repression. It's the cost of years spent denying something essential to who you are. You ask why the same relationships keep happening, why you choose those who won't choose you, why you're drawn to what harms you. The answer lives in your shadow, in the part of you that was exiled, the part that was left in the dark because no one ever told you that light lives there too. This energy you call desire is the same energy that can become creation. It's the impulse that, when seen, becomes art. When symbolized, becomes purpose. When elevated, becomes healing power. But that only happens when you trade judgment for curiosity. When you stop seeing desire as the enemy and start seeing it as a guide. Because the real danger was never in feeling. The danger is in feeling without understanding, in repeating without awareness, in living without translating what's burning inside. All energy that isn't given meaning becomes compulsion, and every compulsion is your soul begging to be seen. How many times have you confused desire with love? How many times have you given yourself not out of wholeness but out of hunger? How many times have you chased someone to give you back the parts you abandoned? Unconscious desire is a field of projection. You don't love the other person. You love what they seem to give back to you. You love the image of what's missing. You love the promise of being whole. And that's why so many loves end in heartbreak, because they weren't true encounters. They were symbolic attempts at self-repair. This energy, when denied, becomes a trap. It shows up as chronic irritation, compulsive distractions, obsessive thoughts. It hijacks your peace, steals your focus, dulls your joy. Not because it's wrong, but because it's been silenced for too long. You don't need to kill the fire. You need to walk through it. Walking through is not the same as controlling. Control is fear. Walking through is courage. The courage to see, to feel, to accept that within you lives something wild, yes, but also sacred. That there is hunger, yes, but also meaning. There is impulse, but also direction. This energy doesn't need to be defeated. It needs to be translated, transformed. And transformation is not suppression. It is interpretation. It is giving symbolic shape to what burns inside. It is allowing desire to rise not just as lust, but as creativity, as living spirituality. That's why those who become intimate with their own desire don't become more animalistic. They become more lucid, more present, more whole. You don't need more tricks to control yourself. You need more courage to truly listen, to ask yourself, what inside me is still burning in silence? This is the crossing, and it begins now. Walking through the fire. Before we continue, if you're ready to go deeper into this inner journey, I recommend the Jung method, a simple and powerful tool to help you understand the unconscious patterns shaping your life. The link is pinned in the first comment. Now let's return to the place where desire becomes transformation. You've been taught to survive, to hold yourself together, to manage your emotions, to act like everything is under control. But survival isn't the same as wholeness, and holding yourself together is not the same as being fully alive. There's a kind of hunger that lives inside those who have silenced their instincts for too long. It's not hunger for sex, attention, or even affection. It's a hunger for connection with yourself, with the part of you that was left behind when you decided to be good, acceptable, strong. Because somewhere along the line you learned that your intensity was too much, that your desire was dangerous, that your longing made others uncomfortable, and so you tucked away the most vital part of yourself, the part that feels without filter, the part that aches, craves, creates. But here's the truth, what you repress doesn't disappear, it mutates, it turns into addictions, into anxiety, into a dull ache in your chest that no success or relationship can seem to erase. That's why your soul doesn't want you to be perfect. It wants you to be whole, and being whole means accepting that there's fire inside you. A fire that doesn't need to be extinguished, but guided. A fire that isn't about lust, but about life itself. Desire, in its unconscious form, is magnetic. It pulls you toward what's missing. It seduces you into reenacting old patterns. It leads you into illusions, all while whispering, "Heal me." When you ignore that voice, you repeat. You choose pain over and over, not because you're weak, but because you're searching for recognition. You want someone to finally see what you refuse to see in yourself. And so the same story plays out again and again. Different faces, same emptiness, same drama, different names, same ache, masked by intensity. This is the trap of unintegrated desire. You don't need to kill your passion. You need to meet it, to look it in the eye and say, I see you, I hear you, I'm not afraid anymore. Because every unspoken desire is a prayer waiting to be answered, and every repeated mistake is a mirror asking you to stop and reflect. When you finally slow down, something incredible happens. The chaos softens, the urgency dissolves, the ache becomes a message instead of a torment. You realize that your desire isn't chasing someone else, it's chasing you, your forgotten self, your silenced voice, your buried truth. Desire is not the enemy, denial is. And the longer you live disconnected from this inner truth, the more you'll search for meaning in people, places, and things that cannot hold it. No lover can give you what you haven't yet given yourself. No relationship can complete a soul that has been divided. You think you want them, but what you really want is to feel yourself again, to reclaim your body, to reclaim your instincts, to stop apologizing for feeling too much. There's no formula for this, no checklist, only the slow, sacred practice of turning inward, of listening to what aches and allowing it to speak. When you do, everything changes. You stop confusing pleasure with love. You stop giving away your power for scraps of attention. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy, and for the first time you begin to choose differently, not from fear, but from awareness, not from lack, but from fullness. Because when you truly understand desire, it becomes clarity, it becomes vision, it becomes your path, not your prison. Your body was never meant to be a battlefield. It was meant to be an altar, a sacred space where spirit and flesh meet, where instinct becomes insight, where longing becomes purpose. And that's the mystery most people miss. Desire, when integrated, doesn't destroy you. It creates you. You stop being a fragmented soul looking for pieces in others. You become someone who remembers that the fire within is not a curse, but a call to awaken, to transform, to return to yourself. And the closer you get to that return, the quieter the chaos becomes. Because the noise was never the real problem. The real problem was your disconnection from the voice beneath it. Now here is the invitation. Stop running. Stop numbing. Stop bargaining with what you feel. Instead, meet it. Breathe into it. Ask it what it wants to show you. Because when desire is finally honored as sacred, you stop chasing the flame and become the fire.